Pangam langyate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurudena Taranam Paramanandam Madhavam. Hare Krishna, thank you again for joining. So we'll continue our discussion in 6th canto, chapter 11, Transcendental Qualities of Vritrasura. So we were discussing the battle between Vritrasura and the demigods. So we had finished at verse 9. So we'll continue with verse 10. So Indra Shatruhu Kupito Brasham Taya Mahindravaham Gadayoru Vikramaha Jagana Kumbha Stalaunattan Mrade Tatkarma Sarve Samapujayan Nrapa. O King Parikshit, the powerful Vitrasur, the enemy of King Indra, angrily struck the head of Indra's elephant with that club, making a tumultuous sound on the battlefield. For this heroic deed, the soldiers on both sides glorified him. So in the previous verse, we had seen that Indra, while holding the Vajra in his hand, had thrown his own club at Vritrasur. And the reason was that lack of faith, essentially lack of faith in the words of Lord Vishnu, and more faith in his own history. So Indra had fought many battles with the club and emerged victorious. So he had a lot of faith in the potency of the club. And when they had gone to Lord Vishnu, so previous chapter, the whole pastime of going to Dadichi, getting his bones, going to Vishwakarma, making the Vajra, and then Lord Vishnu saying, giving this benediction that my power, the Vajra will king Vritrasur. Right? So, but he's holding the Vajra in his hand, but still using the club. So acharyas say it is like a materialist who has the holy name with him, but is still using the modes of material nature. So there are so many instructions that are given about the potency of the holy name. The Lord has personally empowered the holy name. He has benedicted those who use the holy name. And the jiva, knowing all that, holding the holy name, still is trying to use the modes of material nature just because they have lived in the material world for a very long time and they're comfortable, they're familiar with the modes of material nature. They have more faith in it than faith in the word of the Lord. So this club that Indra threw, Vritrasura catches it with his left hand, which is a weaker hand, negligently. Like when Krishna lifted the Govardhan, it was with the small pinky of his left hand. So Vritrasura negligently, to insult Indra, he catches it with his left hand and he throws it back and hits Airavat on the head with it. So this deed of catching the club that in the past had killed so many asuras, just negligently, and then throwing it back and hurting Airavat. So because the Kshatriyas, they appreciate chivalry, they appear the art of fighting on both sides. So both sides, the Devas and the Asuras, they glorified this act of Vritrasur. Verse 11. Eravat pratakadamimsto vigunnito drihi kulisatu yatha apasarad bhinnamukha sahendro munichan asraka saptadhanu brishartha. Struck by the club of Vritrasur, like a mountain struck by a thunderbolt, the elephant Airavat, feeling great pain, and spitting blood from its broken mouth, was pushed back 14 yards. In great distress, the elephant fell with Indra on its back. So Airavat is not an ordinary elephant. He emerged during the churning of the ocean. Very, very powerful. In other narrations of battle, it is mentioned how Airavat himself would plunge through the warrior armies, wreaking havoc over there. He would just by his feet trample thousands of asuras. By his tusk, he would pierce their body. So one can assume, being the career of Indra, not an ordinary position, right? But the plight of Airavat is given over here, right? That he's feeling great pain and he's spitting blood from its broken mouth. So interestingly, in the verse, it is said that Sapta Dhanur. So Sapta Dhanur means 7 bow lengths. So each bow is considered to be 4 hastas. So 4 hands long. Each hasta is considered to be 18 inches. So then if you do the maths, he was 7 bows of 4 hastas of 18 inches each, which is 504 inches. And given that 1 yard is 36 inches, Srila Prabhupada calculates this as 14 yards. So Srila Prabhupada does the maths for us and calculates it as 14 yards or 52 feet or 504 inches. Verse 12. Nasanvaya vishancheteshe prayunkta bhuyas gadam mahatma indrumratshyandikara vimarsha Vitavyatkshvatvahovataste. When he saw Indra's carrier elephant thus fatigued and injured, and when he saw Indra morose because his carrier had been harmed in that way, the great soul Vritrasur, following religious principles, refrained from again striking Indra with the club. Taking this opportunity, Indra touched the elephant with his nectar-producing hand, thus relieving the animal's pain and curing its injuries. Then the elephant and Indra both stood silently. So as I mentioned earlier, you can see the strong mood of affection between Sukadev Goswami and Vritrasur, right? From one Mahabhagavat to another, and how they're both truly transcending their material conceptions. That Sukadev Goswami, born as the son of Vyasadeva in a Brahmin family, pure devotee, sitting, reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Vritrasur, born as a demon with a hideous body, as we see later on, actually eating with his mouth the armies of the devas, the animals. There's so much of difference in the exterior, but so much of similarity in the moods. The mood of serving the Lord. We also see how Vritrasur is unlike the devas. He's following the principles of dharma. So earlier on, Vritrasur had severely chastised the devas because they were attacking the asuras from behind. That when the devas and the asuras met this time, then the asuras, they became bewildered by the effulgence of the devas, their power, their enthusiasm. And after the initial skirmish, they turned and ran away. And the devas, they began to shoot arrows at them from behind, killing them, which is against the Kshatriya code of conduct. So Vritrasur, he had chastised both. He had chastised the asuras also, that why are you leaving the battlefield? Better for you to stand and die and attain glory. But more, he had chastised the devas. The asuras, they're considered to be adharmic, but the devas are famous for their adherence to dharma. And this is how they are acting. And the thing is that Vritrasur, he's not just being opportunistic about it. Like some people, when they see others doing anything, they will criticize them severely. But when the opportunity comes, they themselves will do it. But Vritrasur is not doing that, right? He could have used this opportunity when Indra was fallen, Airavat was hurt. He could have continued with his attack. But Vritrasur refrained from attacking. So this is the conduct of Mahapurush, that their achar and prachar go hand in hand. Vritrasur is not making any excuses that this is the battlefield and extenuating circumstances, I won't have another opportunity, or that the devas were following adharma, so it's okay for me to follow adharma. Nothing of that. Right? He simply knows what the principles of dharma is and he's following them. Then Sukadeva Goswami notes that both Indra and Airavat are standing silently. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that they're standing silently because they're embarrassed. They're embarrassed by how easily they have been defeated by Vritrasur, both from the perspective of material strength and also from the perspective of spiritual strength. Right? So materially he defeated them. He caught the club, threw it back at them and hurt them. Spiritually he defeated them because he continued to follow the principles of dharma, whereas they did not. So this is the moment of great embarrassment for Indra. So he's standing silently there. Verse 13. Satam Nripendra Satam Nipendrava Kamyaya Ripum Vajrayudam Bhrata Hanam Vilokya Samram Shattat Karma Nar Samasham Mamaha Shoke Namohena Hasan Jagada. O king, when the great hero Vritrasur saw Indra, his enemy, the killer of his brother, standing before him with a thunderbolt in his hand, desiring to fight, Vritrasur remembered how Indra had cruelly killed his brother. Thinking of Indra's sinful activities, he became mad with lamentation and forgetfulness. Laughing sarcastically, he spoke as follows. So in 5 verses from 13 to 17 is Vritrasur's chastisement of Indra, right? So it is said that Shokena Mohena, that with lamentation, and Mohena, that bewildered. So actually Vritrasur was born after the death of his brother Vishvarup, right? So it is mentioned here that thinking of Indra's sinful activities. He had not witnessed the death of Vishvarup, because in the chronology of events, after Indra kills Vishvarup, then Twasta performs the great yajna and Vritrasur appears. So the remembrance of Vritrasur is based on what he has been told by his father, Indra. Right? And Indra, on the other hand, shaken by the sheer power of Vritrasur, is frozen. Right? So it is mentioned that Indra is standing before him with a thunderbolt in his hand. So he has just witnessed the awesome power of Vritrasur. And he is hesitant. He has used the club and it was destroyed. Now he is hesitant to use the Vajra out of fear that it may also not succeed. And if the Vajra does not succeed, there is no recourse for Indra. So with all the weapons that Indra has, Vritrasur has already defeated him. The only thing that he has which he hasn't used is the Vajra. So Indra is thinking, this is the last thing that I have now. If I throw it, and if Vritrasura captures it, just like he captured my club, then he will wreak havoc on the Devas. He will undoubtedly kill me and the whole army. Right? So, frozen with fear, he's standing with the Vajra in his hands. From the next verse 14, for 10 verses, is the direct conversation between these two personalities, between Vritrasura and Indra. And the last 4 verses, 20 to 23, are prayers by Vritrasura. So even though he's speaking to Indra, but he's not really speaking to Indra. He's now speaking to Lord Vishnu, and he speaks. These 4 verses are similar to the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, right? So we'll study them when we get there. Verse 14, Shri Vritruvacha Drishtya Bhavan Me Samavesthito Ripu Yo Brahmaha Guruha Bhratraha Cha Dishtyan Rodhyaham Asatam Tvaya Machula Nirbhinna Drishat Dridachara. Shri Vitrasur said, he who has killed a Brahman, he who has killed a spiritual master, indeed, he who has killed my brother, is now, by good fortune, standing before me face to face as my enemy. O most abominable one, when I pierce your stone-like heart with my trident, I shall be freed from the debt to my brother. So Vritrasura is displaying his sentiments towards his elder brother. So the elder brother, shastrically, is considered to be the father. And one of the debts of the son is to repay any wrongdoings to the father. So he considers avenging the death of Vishwarup as his duty, as a debt that he has to pay off. And we see how he's addressing Indra as Brahmaha, Guruha, Bhratarha. Right? So in killing Vishwarup, Indra, he performed 3 offenses at the same time. He killed a Brahman, he killed a spiritual master, and he killed the brother. So the brother of Vishwarup, and in a way the brother of Indra also, even though he's more like the nephew of Indra, because Indra and Twashta are brothers, but in the mood of brotherly relationship, right? So three severe offenses he committed. Now, one may say that Sukadeva Goswami, he's addressing here Vritrasura as Shri Vritruvacha. So what does Shri mean? Shri means the internal energy of Krishna. Radharani, Lakshmi Devi. So when it is said that Shri somebody, it means the person is a devotee, is under the internal energy of the Lord. Or when you say Shripad something, Shripad means one who is residing at the lotus feet of Shri, the consort of Vishnu. So Sukadeva Goswami is conscious of the position of Vritrasura, right? So he says, Sri Vitruvacha. Sukadeva Goswami is also conscious of the fact that the pure devotees, they have no material debts. Later on, in the 11th canto, he himself will say, Deva Rishi Bhuta Paranam Pitranam. Right? When a person takes a devotional service, then Devas, Rishis, human beings, Pitranams, parents, one is automatically relieved of all the debts. So at the same time, he is placing these two sentiments side by side. Sri Vritrasur, pure devotee, who actually is already freed of all material debts, is saying this, that I have now to repay the debt of the death of my brother. So this verse brings forth the perspective of a devotee. So verses like Deva Rishi Prutanam Nrinam Pritranam, they are outside looking inside. This is Krishna giving the benediction, the sages giving the benediction, that the devotees, they are free from all debt. Now looking inside outside, that the devotee understanding this, but in the mood of humility, nevertheless feels that he has debts. Right? So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the Anta when he was expecting Mahabhav, the highest symptoms of Shuddha Bhakti, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, in addressing Mahaprabhu, he calls him Matra Bhakta Shiromani, that he is the jewel of those who are devoted to their mother. As once when Jagadanand Pandit was visiting Navadvip, it's a famous conversation, Mahaprabhu asked him to check on the welfare of his mother. And this is when Jagadanand actually chastises Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu says, check on the welfare of my mother. Also make sure she's following Ekadashi. And Jagadanand gets very upset with Mahaprabhu, saying, she's your mother, she's the mother of the universe, and she's beyond being pure, etc. And of course, there's this rasa between these two personalities, and Mahaprabhu laughs and he says, okay, but still go and check on her. So this is the mood of Mahaprabhu. He has taken sannyas, he is experiencing Mahabhav and Matra Bhakta Shiromani. Like he is still inquiring about the welfare of his mother. So there are two extremes. There are people who are exclusively focused on their debts. I have a debt to my family, I have a debt to my parents, I have a debt to my king, my country, and that is their exclusive pursuit. They're so absorbed in trying to pay off the debts that they have no time or interest for any spiritual avenues. That's one extreme. Then there are those who take to the spiritual path and say that I've taken to this path of spirituality. And because I've taken to this, I'm freed of all my debts. That's the other extreme. Now, the first one we can understand is totally material. No time for spiritual advancement. But in the second, there is also pride. Because when a person says that I have no debts to the society, etc., the person is also saying that I'm a pure devotee. And he's making this implicit point that I have no debts. Why? Because implicitly it is said in the Bhagavatam that the pure devotees are relieved of all their debts, and therefore it means that I am a pure devotee. There is this famous pastime of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who had taken his Grihastha disciples for a yatra. I think it was Puri Yatra, not 100% sure. Somewhere in that area, either Puri or one of the temples there. And generally in these places, there are beggars. So there were beggars who were coming, and the disciples, they were not giving any alms to the beggars. They were just thinking that these are all materialistic activities. And Mahaprabhu Bhakti Siddhanta civilly chastised it, saying that he called them hypocrites, because obviously they were not pure devotees. They were all neophytes, practicing devotees, and they were taking shelter of this conception to be relieved of their responsibility. And then we see the actual pure devotees like Yudhishthira Maharaj. he, in order to attain the kingdom, the whole battle of Mahabharata was fought. Now, Yudhishthira Maharaj knows that this was for the pleasure of Krishna. Right? So he knows that this is his spiritual duty, but we also see that he shows so much of regret at the killing of so many people, right? Because he is in humility thinking that because of my ego, because I had aspirations to ascend on the throne of Hastinapur, all this killing was done. Right? And we know that he was so demoralized by that ultimately Krishna took him to Bhishma Dev. Right? We also see that Srila Prabhupada, when he had established ISKCON, he was a sannyasi, he had broken off with his family, but then also he made some efforts to help his son. Right? He asked his disciples to buy a small house in Calcutta in which his son could live. And his Vrindavan Chandrade, his oldest son name was Vrindavan Chandrade. He was also sitting on the GBC more as a titular head, but because of some arrangement that was made by Prabhupada, or there's some legal things that happened. When Prabhupada left the planet, then he filed a case saying that this ISKCON belongs to me because I'm Prabhupada's heir. And there was some legal thing. He didn't, of course, have any, because Prabhupada clearly stated everything in his will. But the disciples of Prabhupada, they had a lot of deference from Vrindavan Chand because he's the son of their guru. So they gave him there was some concession. He was given some position over there. Right? Now, Srila Prabhupada was not being, he was still considering that as a father, maybe I have some duty towards my son. So he did something to help, but not that he just said that, everything gets built to my son, etc. So ideally, one's body, mind, and birth should be aligned in the service of the Lord. Right? But circumstantially, it may not be always aligned. So example is Bhishma and Akrura, right? Bhishma, he had given his heart to Krishna, but his body to the Kauravas. Once Bhishma was asked, why did you stay silent when Draupadi was being destroyed? And he said, because I had eaten the grains of Duryodhan and my intelligence was clouded. Similarly, we see Akrur. Akrur was totally surrendered to Krishna, but his body belonged to Kamsa. Kamsa was his king. He was living under the protection of Kamsa. And he came to, when Kamsa sends Akrur, he clearly says what his plan is. That you get Krishna, when he comes here, I will kill him. Akrur says, okay, sir. Right? So he goes there to get Krishna to follow the instructions of Kamsa. Right? But in his heart, he knows that who Krishna is. So similarly, Vritrasur, his heart is given to Krishna. But circumstantially, his body is opposed to the will of Krishna. It's very much like these personalities, Bhishma and Akrur. And later on, we will see how this dilemma in Vritrasur is going to be reflected in his prayers. Okay, verse 15. Yano grajasyatma vidodvijate gururapapasya chadikshitasya vishrabhya khadgena shiramsya vashusha pashor iva karuna swargakamaha. Only for the sake of living in the heavenly planets, you killed my elder brother, a self-realized, sinless, qualified Brahmin who had been appointed your chief priest. He was your spiritual master. But although you entrusted him with the performance of your sacrifice, you later mercilessly severed his head from his body the way one butchers an animal. Right? So here we see the bewilderment of Dhritarashtra appearing, that he is recounting this gory incident with details. Right? So he is saying that who is my brother? Self-realized, sinless, qualified Brahman who Indra had approached and appointed as the self-priest. Indra had convinced him to become his guru. And to show Indra favor, Vishwarup, he had taught him the Narayan Kavach. He was performing yagyas for him. And because he was self-realized, he was not making a distinction between the devas and the asuras. Right? He was equally distributing the oblations to the both devas and the asuras. And Indra, instead of understanding this, he mercilessly severed his head as one butchers an animal, pashu, that you killed him like a pashu. So the criticism also is with Indra's mood of approaching Vishwarup to become his guru. Right? So one should not approach a guru out of passion of pride or competition. Right? One should only approach a guru for genuine advancements. And in Bhagavatam 11.321, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyate Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam Shabdi Pare na Nishnatam Brahmanya Upasha Mashrayam. Therefore, any person who seriously desires real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of a bona fide guru is that he realizes the conclusion of the scriptures by deliberation and is able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead leave aside all material considerations, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual master. Right? So only when a person is exhausted of sense gratification that is offered by the earthly and the heavenly planets are they recommended to approach a spiritual master. Right? So when Indra and the Devas, they approach Vishwarup, it was not for Shreya Uttamam, right? But to regain the material opulences. Then fine, one may approach the Guru with material opulences, but even after approaching the Guru, one should take the instructions of the Guru to the heart and become disengaged from the material conceptions. But Indra and the Devas did not do that. So they approached Vishwarup as a Guru. Even after approaching him, they maintained their material desires. And because of that, they did not make any spiritual advancements. So even though Vishwarup is glorified as a sinless Brahman who is free of any envy, who is qualified, etc., self-realized, but he was not able to help the Devas make any spiritual advancements because they did not approach him to get any spiritual guidance. They only approached him as a way to defeat the asuras and regain the heavenly planets. So the potency of Guru Ashraya is that it awards whatever the disciple wants. The Guru Ashraya is simply a continuation of Krishna's potency. Like Krishna says, Yatha mam prapadyante tam sate bhajayam. Right? Krishna has the same potency that he is Kalpavriksha. You go to him and say, I want a car, he'll give you a car. You go to him and say that I want heavenly planets, he'll give that to you. You go to him and say, I want to be a servant, he'll give that to you. And because the Devas reflect this potency of Krishna, they are also reciprocating according to the desires of the disciple. So the Devas wanted material opulence, and that is what they got. Right? He was an exalted personality, Vishwarupa, impartial to both the demons and the devas. Right? And he had this quality of very advanced gurus who are strict with himself but lenient to others. So he agreed to act as a priest in the mood of service to the devas, knowing very well that they had material desires. Vishwarup himself did not have any material desires, but he was awarding them to the devas because of his magnanimity. So, like a son goes to the father and says, I want this, I want this. And the father knows that's not best for the son, but just out of affection for the son, he gives it to him. So, Vishwarup, he could have awarded them the highest benediction of spiritual advancement. But because the devas didn't want it, the Guru did not award them. We see the same mood of the devas when they were praying to Lord Vishnu. So they were praying very, very beautiful prayers, and then the devas get concerned that maybe Lord Vishnu, when he hears us reciting these prayers, he may become overtly affectionate to us and give us spiritual benediction. So quickly they changed the mood of the prayers. And they said, we have come to you specifically because we want our heavenly kingdom back. We want to defeat the asuras. Then they start speaking very, very materially. Sri Chakravarti says, because Indra is concerned that Lord Vishnu, he might say, oh, Indra is speaking so nicely. It's like, Prabhupada's, people approach Prabhupada and says, give me benediction. And Prabhupada would say, may you lose your material desires. And they would say, no, 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 give me some other benediction. Right? Because they didn't want that. Now, that benediction is much higher than any benediction that they could have gotten, but that was not their mood. Similarly, Vishwarup understood these material desires of the devas, and he indulged them. Despite that, Indra killed him. So Vritrasura is remembering this and getting angry. Okay, verse 16. Srihidaya kirtabiruchihitam tvam swakarmana purushadischa garyam krachrena machula vibhinna deham vahanim samadanti gradraha. Indra, you are bereft of all shame, mercy, glory, and good fortune. Deprived of these good qualities by the reactions of your fruitive activities, you are to be condemned even by the man-eaters, Rakshasas. Now I shall pierce your body with my trident, and after you die with great pain, even fire will not touch you. Only the vultures will eat your body. So every word of Vritrasur is so these are not just words that a person in anger is saying. Now Vritrasur is angry, but he's also a great Vaishnava. So when he says Shri Ri Daya Kritbir Uchihitim Twaham, right? So he says that you're bereft, Uchihitim of Shri Hi Daya Kritir, right? That you're bereft of all these qualities of shame, mercy, glory, and good fortune. Right? And if you take the activities of Indra, then you will see that each and every adjective that Vritrasur is using is actually applicable to a certain action that Indra has performed. Right? And shame, mercy, glory, good fortune, beginning from his disrespecting Brihaspati to the killing of Vritrasur, the killing of Vishwarup, to him standing in front of him. So it is said that if one kills somebody that has taken shelter of you, then the sin is magnified many times over. Because the Vedic injunction is that even if an enemy takes shelter of you, you must give up your body to protect that enemy. Right? In the Khandaprastha, famous pastime, when Maya Danav took shelter of Arjun, and Krishna, in order to glorify Arjun, he comes running, saying that I have to kill Maya Danav. And Maya Danav had already said that please give me shelter. Arjun had said, okay. And Arjun, he picks up his weapons against Krishna. So one can imagine how much that takes for Arjun, whose very life and soul is Krishna, best of the friends. Together they were doing this together. And Arjun, he takes up his weapons against Krishna, saying, Maya Danav is in my protection. Right. So that's the Kshatriya code of conduct. Right? So which is why it's also considered that uh, um, so for those who are addicted to meat eating, the recommendation is, while it is considered to be sinful, but the recommendation is that one should go out in the jungle and hunt the animal. But when you domesticate the animal and kill them, then that sin is 1,000,000 times over. Because when you domesticate animals, they take shelter of you. They are now dependent on you. They depend on you for food. They actually, a lot of the animals develop a lot of affection for, of course, now it's mostly like, what do they call it, factory killing. But in the farmlands and etc., once I was sitting in a doctor's office, and this was out in the countryside. So most of the people out there, they had farms, etc. And one person was talking to another, and they were mentioning how they train their children to not name the animals. Because you have a lamb, you name the lamb Mary, you play with the lamb, and the next day Mary is your lunch. So it's very difficult for them to as children to accept that. So right from the beginning, they train the children that it's just something that you're going to eat. But nevertheless, the animals are taking shelter of these people, right? So it's considered to be much more sinful. So Vishwaroop, when he had taken Indra and the Devas as his disciples, he had placed his trust on them. Right? So Vishwaroop in himself was a very powerful personality. Right? He could have destroyed Indra by his Brahmanical powers at any time. He was at the same level of as Brahaspati. Right? But Indra, he gained the trust of Vishwaroop. Gaining the trust of Vishwaroop, he got several favors from Vishwaroop. Having gotten those favors, he misused the trust and killed his own guru, who had placed his trust in him by deception. So Vitrasur is chastising Indra when he's thinking of this conduct. That don't you have any shame that you're killing the person who trusted you? Don't you have any mercy that as a Kshatriya, you're supposed to protect the Brahmanas, not kill them? And what is going to happen to your glory when people find that you killed your own guru? Second time, really. Brihaspati killed by insulting him. Second time, right? And all good fortune leaves a person who is infested with sin. Right? So a person who betrays trust is bereft of all good qualities. So he compares Indra with the Rakshasas. So the Rakshasas are man-eaters, but they openly advertise themselves. Right? The Rakshasas don't go around saying that I am your humble disciple, and as soon as the Guru's back is turned, they eat them. Right? When the Rakshasas come, they know these are man-eaters. They will try to protect themselves. They will try to kill the Rakshasas. It's fallen, but it is transparent. But Indra, he appeared as a submissive disciple. If you remember the conversation between Indra and Vishwarup, how sweetly Indra was speaking to him. That even though I'm older to you by in relationship, because Indra is the brother of Twasta, so Vishwarup is his nephew or son. He said, but you are much more advanced than me. And we understand how spiritually advanced you are. We also understand how magnanimous you are. We have come to take shelter of you, right? So all these things he said to gain the trust of Vishwarup. And then he betrayed that trust and killed him. So Vishwarup says that when you die, even the fire will not touch your body. Because fire is famous for its ability to purify. Right? But he says that even the fire will not touch you because it is unable to purify one who is contaminated by the sins of Guru Hatya. And the vultures, they are the ultimate scavengers. They eat what has been rejected by everybody else. So in the jungle, the lion attacks an animal, they eat. After the lions go away, the hyenas come and eat. After the hyenas go away, the jackals and the smaller animals come and eat. And whatever has been rejected by everybody, then the vultures come and eat it. Similarly, Indra, he has been rejected by all the principles of dharma. So the only thing that remains is for the vultures to come and take that which is not acceptable to anyone and anybody. Okay, verse 17. Anyenu ye tweha narasamshamagya yad udyatastraha praharanti maham ter bhutanathan sanganan nishat Trishul nirbhinna gale rayajami. You are naturally cruel. If the other demigods, unaware of my prowess, follow you by attacking me with raised weapons, I shall sever their heads with this sharp trident. With those heads, I shall perform a sacrifice to Bhairav and the other leaders of the ghost along with their hosts. So Bhairav, as we know, is a follower of Lord Shiva and is also considered to be the leader of the ghosts. And so for all the living entities, the ghosts are most strongly in the mode of ignorance. Right? And they feast, just like the vultures, the ghosts, they feed on the most fallen, on the dead bodies in the crematorium, on those who are really, really down in the moods. Now, Vritrasur, despite all this anger, he's making concessions for the followers of Indra. Right? So generally, the followers are not held to the same level of accountability as the leader. So what is the point Vritrasur is making? That if the Devas do not follow you in this battle, I will spare them. Right, so this is the concession he's making. That you're a bad leader. They followed you, they made mistakes. But they're followers. If they stop following you, I will let them go. However, if they still continue to follow you, if they follow you by attacking me with raised weapons, then he said, just like you are food for vultures, they will be food for hosts. And similar mood. Then they are also ugra tamsik like you are. Okay, verse 18. Atho harmi kulishena vira hartha pramatyeva shiro yadika yadiha tatranrabhuta balim vidhaya manasavinam pada rajah prapatsye. But if in this battle you cut off my head with your thunderbolt and kill my soldiers, O Indra, O great hero, I shall take great pleasure in offering my body to other living entities, such as jackals and vultures. I shall thus be relieved of my obligation to the reactions of my karma, and my fortune will be to receive the dust from the lotus feet of great devotees, like Narad Muni. Like he says, Manasvina. So it doesn't say Narad Muni by name, Prabhupada kind of interpolates it. But Manasvinam is Manas amongst the humans, great thinkers, great devotees, Prabhupada say, like Narad Muni. So beginning from this verse 18, for the next 6 words are instructions by Vritrasur to Indra. So Vritrasur is now, so earlier in the heat of the battle, he is asserting his victory. And this is Kshatriya conduct. They will go and they will make these big claims. I will kill you, I will offer your body over here, with one arrow I will annihilate the entire army. So this is the Kshatriya's chest beating that happens at the beginning of the battle. But Vritrasura is also a great devotee, right? So he acknowledges that the outcome of the battle is not in his hand. Right? It could go anywhere. Right? And really speaking, he doesn't care about it. He's a liberated soul. So he doesn't care whether he wins or Indra wins. His only commitment is to do his duty. Right? He's exemplifying the principle of Nishkam Karma. Right? And if you take it one step further, Vritrasur, he's actually certain that he will die because he knows that this is the desire of Lord Vishnu. Right? So he's doing all this to accelerate that end. He is like, Lord Vishnu wants me dead. How quickly can I die? And so this is the mood of great devotees. For neophyte devotees, their mood is that how quickly can Lord Vishnu make my life better? But Vritrasur is completely the outcome is irrelevant. Whether I die or whether I live, his desire is how quickly can I fill the desire of my Lord Vishnu, and if my Lord Vishnu desires that I die, let me quickly attain that end. Right. So, so Vishwanath Chakravarti says that Vritrasur is saying, giving up my material body as an offering to the jackals, I will be free from my debt and will attain the lotus feet of devotees like Narad. So what is the debt that Vritrasur has? The debt that he has is the perceived insult to Lord Shiva, the anger of Parvati Devi. Now, when we read that pastime, we'll understand that there was no offense to Lord Shiva, but it does not matter. For an advanced devotee, if another devotee is upset, that's what matters. They don't care that whether you're offended because of right or wrong things. Right? They want reasons saying, but actually I meant this, and it's your fault. You didn't understand this, so you have no right to be upset. I should be upset. They don't care about that. Chitraketu realized that somehow or the other he had upset a great Vaishnavi, Parvati Devi. He realized that behind this whole pastime was the desire of the Lord to make a point. And he is wholeheartedly doing that service. Prabhupada writes that Vitra was certain that he would be killed in the battle with Indra because this was the desire of Lord Vishnu. He was prepared for death because he knew that after his death he was destined to return back to Godhead. This is a great destination and it is achieved by the grace of a Vaishnava. Chadiya Vaishnav Seva Nistar Pechakeva. No one has ever gone back to Godhead without being favored by a Vaishnava. In this verse, therefore, we find the word Manasvinam, Padaraja Prapasyate. I shall receive the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees. The word Manasvinam refers to great devotees. You always think of Krishna. Right? And as I mentioned, Prabhupada contextually translates it to Narad Muni because Vishnu Chakravarti also makes that point. So, in general, this is the psychology of doctors who are reluctant to take terminal patients because it will add to their failure cases. So, doctors, they pride on how many patients they can save. So, if a patient comes to them and they know the patient is going to die, they're reluctant to take because it affects their statistics. Right? Or if a player knows that the match is fixed for him to lose, he will not play enthusiastically. The outcome is predetermined. Right? But Vritrasur is detached from the results. So he understands that his duty is to be an enemy of Indra. Right? He understands that the Lord wants to use him to make a point that even his own devotees, if they're breaking the principles of dharma, will not be favored by him. Right? So this we'll see later on that if you take the antecedents away, the whole Chitraketu pastime away, Vritrasur was an asura who was in the mode of ignorance fighting against the devas. Now Vritrasur was a devotee who was an asura. So one of the lessons in this pastime is the Lord is saying, even if my devotees become adharmic, I will not protect them. I will actually help them being killed. And that's why we see the Lord, helping the devas get this. But then at a deeper layer, we know that actually the Lord was favoring Vritrasur over Indra. Okay, so we'll stop at this point, see if there's any discussions. Okay, if no questions, no discussion.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, I can hear you.
Yeah, just a question about Indra. Since Indra, he killed the spiritual master and all that, is it something that, like Indra, he does many things that sometimes is seemingly not very nice? Is that a pastime or is it deliberately done by Indra?
Indra is a complex personality. I think in the Bhagavad, especially, a lot of pastimes are shown in which Indra is acting in strange ways. Like remember when we were reading the pastime to Maharaj, in order to stop the 100th Yakya, he was doing so much activities. Like he was coming disguised as a Brahman and stealing the calf, and he was preaching atheistic philosophy, all just to maintain his own position. And I'm the only person who has done 100
Yeah,
Yakyas.
in Ramayana.
Yeah, I'm the greatest. And at the end of the day, Brahma comes and speaks in favor of Indra. And because Prithu Maharaj could have killed Indra anytime he wanted, and actually at one point decides to kill him. And then Brahma says, no, don't kill him. He's a child, let him go. Right? So he's kind of like a favored truant. Like in a house, especially you see in a house where there are, I had this personal example that experience. There was a house in which the couple, they had like 5 daughters and 1 son. And the son was the apple of everybody's eyes. He was doing all kinds of nonsense activities, and everybody was indulging him. Right, the only male in the house, the only child, the male child in the house. Indra kind of has that special position. But nevertheless, this point is made that the glory of Indra is that he recognizes his mistake and he repents it. So in this particular pastime, we see Indra repeatedly making mistakes. And as soon as he makes a mistake, he recognizes it and genuinely repents. As soon as he insulted Brahaspati, even while sitting on the same throne that he was very proudly sitting, he starts condemning himself that I'm such a fallen person. Similarly, we see that when he kills Vishwaru, then he performs penances. He distributes his sins amongst the four, the earth and fire, and earth, fire, woman, water, etc. After killing Vritrasur, actually Indra gets very severely afflicted by the reactions of killing a Brahman. And then he performs severe austerities to redeem himself after that. So that's one quality that Indra has, because of which he keeps coming back again and again. But at the end of the day, Indra, so it's mentioned, Indra goes back to Godhead. Right?
Yeah.
He's amongst the 33 principal devas that go back to Godhead. So you can't go back to Godhead unless you're a pure devotee.
Mhm.
Right. So, but he goes through this, through this, also displaying a lot of sincere regret. And the other, also the point I made is that they're different Indras. Right? Not all the activities are done by one Indra. Like one Indra only lives for one Manvantra. Right? And these are spanning over the life of Brahma. So we just say Indra did this, Indra did that, Indra did this, but they're actually over different Indras.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, so we'll end over here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namah. Ankur Vaishnavinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.